Hey friends, Paula Norcott here, IBCLC, and we are here to give you a little taste of our podcast skills.
I'm Nicole Hart, also an IBCLC, and together we own Maine Mother and Company, which is a perinatal resource center in Maine. This is our new podcast. We are calling it Pep-talks and permission slips, two of the things we love to give out the most.
So a little background on us. So I am mom to 5 boys, ages 10 to 30. It's just as wild as it sounds. I landed here in this industry because I had tricky kids. And my first, I was really young. He was super easy. I barely breastfed that baby and we did fine. My second baby had colic and he sent me for an absolute ride. And I got deep into what was within my control and what wasn't within my control. And I knew even back then, 26 years ago, that I wanted to help other moms and parents not have to go through what I went through with their babies.
And I also have only boys. I have 3 of them, ages 8, 6, and 2. My house is very messy and very bonkers. It's basically a gym. Mm-hmm. And I got into this work similarly to Paula, and I think a lot of lactation consultants, because of my personal experience. I had my first baby 8 years ago and was just really blindsided by how challenging motherhood was. He didn't feed well, he didn't gain weight well, he didn't sleep well. All the things just felt really tricky. And then when I had my second baby, who's now 6, I had a similarly tricky time, especially with feeding. And this time I was laid off from my work in the nonprofit field when he was 5 months old. And that, was not fun, but gave me this really cool opportunity to think about what I wanted to do next. And I landed on kind of delving into the postpartum support world, met with Paula, who had been my doula, my lactation consultant. And if you ask Paula if quitting your job and doing something new is a good idea, she's definitely going to say yes.
My favorite thing to talk people into doing.
You did that. And I took the leap and became a postpartum doula. I became a lactation counselor. And then 2 years ago, I had my second baby. And he, my third baby.
There's 3. There's too many to keep track of. That's the problem.
It's too many. Mm-hmm. My third baby. And, temperament-wise, he's my easiest kid. Feeding-wise, the trickiest one of all. And I went into that feeling like, okay, I know feeding's going to be tricky. I know I make babies with tongue ties who have trouble gaining weight. And things just really turned out even more challenging than I thought they would be.
That baby he sent us both for a loop, I think. He is the most stinking cute, tiny human in the world, but feeding was a nightmare for that baby. You went through the ringer. And the whole time, Nicole, I was thinking, this really sucks, but also this is going to make you such an incredible IBCLC because you ended up exclusive pumping for that baby and not on purpose.
Yeah. Not on purpose, not my intention, not my preference. But yeah, I think that the upside of having trickier babies for both of us, I know definitely for me, is bringing that experience into all of my interactions with clients, whether they're doula clients, lactation clients, any new parents I meet, that kind of lived experience of knowing that this is not easy, that things and babies, feeding babies, helping babies sleep, it's not straightforward for the vast majority of people, and helps me bring a lot of compassion and empathy and just like validation for parents who are having a tricky time.
Yeah. And I think I think you would probably agree with me on this, but I feel like the validation piece is the single most important part of our job. I mean, I will often joke that we're 92% cheerleader, 8% fix the problems. But I think when, especially first-time parents and first-time moms, you have this idea, right, of how it's all going to look. And obviously your world will be filled with rainbows and unicorns. and the sun will just shine and you'll put your baby near your breast and they will latch and it'll be amazing. And I don't see that actually happen all that often. And I think people feel like they're doing it wrong, like they should know better, like, they're failing. And I feel like the number one thing that we're able to do is sort of help build the confidence in both their skills, but also just their parenting instincts of like, look, you're doing such a great job. And I even love to say, like, look at the way this baby looks at you and how in love this baby is. And because when you're drowning and trying to figure stuff out, I think it's easy to forget about those little bits of connection that you can have with your baby, even if feeding and sleep and your body have all gone totally off the rails.
I totally agree. I think like something I find myself saying that to new parents that I think is meaningful is you have such good instincts, because a lot, especially first time parents, but second, third, fourth time parents too, feel like maybe they're missing something. They don't know what they're doing. They feel awkward. They feel confused. I think too, all the information that is available at people's fingertips can fuel that feeling of like the answer to this problem I'm having exists out there, not in here. So even if they have an instinct about why something's not going well or what to do next, it's easy to for that to get drowned out by all the external noise. And I do think, I don't think parenting is instinctual for a lot of us.
I don't think so either.
But I do think a lot of parents do have really good instincts and pointing things out, just like you said, like, look how the baby looks at you, or like, look how calm that baby is as soon as they're put to your chest. Right. You had an instinct to bring that baby up to your chest when they were fussing and not latching. Like, yes, that's exactly right. Helps build up their confidence and helps them kind of get into the practice even of listening to themselves and trusting that they have good ideas.
Yes. People often ask me for book recommendations, and I don't really have any. First of all, because everything changes so quickly. So I know, like, sometimes I joke because I've been parenting for 31 years, and I sometimes joke that everything I did with those kids was wrong. And, but they're fine. And I think everything changes so fast that your best tool is your gut and your instinct. And the more you learn to trust it, like, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to do it wrong sometimes and you're going to have to change your mind. But I think overall, using that as your baseline for where parenting is coming from tends to be the way that people feel the most confident and the most successful in how they're raising their babies and their kiddos.
For sure.
I want you to talk to me about, so that's our Pep-talks, right? So there you go. That's why we call it Pep-talks. But talk to me about permission slips. Like, where does that term come from?
Yeah. Okay. I love giving out permission slips, and it can mean so many different things, right? But I think a lot of it actually comes back to what we were just talking about, is permissions to listen to your instincts, permission to do something maybe a little bit differently than other people are doing it, or than how you expected to do it, different than what Instagram is saying. Permission slip to give yourself a break. I think a lot of new parents, and moms especially, I'm sure dads feel this way too, but especially moms feel like they should be the ones figuring it all out. They should be doing the most. And I just really love to give permission slips to do the least, right? Like, I give you permission to just get by, to be in survival mode, to take a nap instead of washing the dishes, to lean into contact naps, even though the sleep consultant that you follow on Instagram says that they should be napping in their crib. Right, by a certain point.
Juggling a baby.
Right, it's terrible.
Awful.
We would never want to do that. So for me, that's what permission slips is about like letting go of the idea that you had in your head or that someone else is telling you, and do what is easiest or is most appropriate for your family, for you in the situation that you are actually in, not the imagined situation that you built up in your head or that someone else maybe your friend is in, right?
Right. I totally agree with you. And I think I will often say to parents, the way that you're so concerned about whether or not you're doing it right tells me that you're a great parent.
Yeah.
Because there's so many questions about, is this the best way? Is this the right way? I want to do it the very, very best. And of course you do, because it's your baby, but there's a million different options. And there are some things that you're going to do to the very best of your ability and some things that you're not. So for me right now at home, I have a 21-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 10-year-old. And my house looks like someone tipped it upside down and shook it and then also made it really dirty. And we're going on vacation in a week. And the amount of work that I should be doing there to get ready for this trip. But instead, I'm going to do the laundry. I'm going to pack the stuff. I'm going to go on vacation. I'll deal with that crap when I get back.
I love that.
And guess what? It's still going to be there when I get back. And so it'll be okay. And, we're all going in a million different directions. And when you're parenting here in America, women specifically, I mean, I mostly will speak to women's perspective because I'm a woman. And so I'm speaking from my perspective, but also I would say that's the vast majority of who we work with for the most part. We definitely have all types of parents with us, but who we spend the most time with is moms. And so I think there's this pressure to raise children like you don't have a job and work like you don't have kids and, date your husband and keep a Pinterest-worthy home and read 25 self-help books and, meditate every day. And I don't know about you, but I only have 24 damn hours in my day.
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, how many hours how much time would you need in a day to do all those things?
60?
More than I have. Sure.
Doechii, who is like one of my current favorite musical artists, has a song called Bloom, and in it, she's just talking. I think she might be talking to her mom. I can't really tell, but she's talking and she's like, I just feel like I should be doing this and I have to check in on my sisters and check in on my mom and find time for myself and blah, blah, blah. And whoever she's talking to says, nope, God made 24 hours in a day. You participate in those hours, you do what you can do, and then you go to bed. Yes, because you can't do any of it without sleep. And especially when you're a brand new parent, you are so exhausted. You started off probably already missing 1 to 2 nights sleep before that baby came out of your body. Mm-hmm. And then it just only gets worse from there. You don't get people are like, oh, you got to catch up. When is that happening when you're a new parent? You're probably not going to. I mean, there are some things you can try, but for the most part, you're baseline exhausted for 6 to 12 weeks.
I was going to say 2 years.
It's a lot. I mean, I now sleep through the night for the most part. I definitely have, 51-year-old hormone stuff that's waking me up in the middle of the night. But for the most part, I do go to bed and I sleep and I don't wake up until either my husband, my alarm, pretty much my husband or my alarm. I don't even usually have kids coming in to poke me into that creepy thing where they stand over you and stare at you. And so you open your eyes and you're terrified. I don't really even have that much going on at our house anymore. So there's hope. You are deep in the throes of the children standing over you and staring at you.
Knock on wood, there hasn't been too much of the creepy staring recently. And I now have 3 kids who sleep through the night, thank goodness. And my 2-year-old has been doing that for a year, probably. But I would say I'm still baseline exhausted because it's so exhausting to be a parent to kids who have so many needs, right? Like even an 8-year-old, he's pretty independent, but he's still like he can't reach glasses in the cabinet. So even if he is motivated, I catch him scaling the kitchen cupboards to get a glass. Like, how about you let me help you before that smashes on the granite countertop?
And then I have to clean it up.
And then, because I don't want to do that. But yeah, I would say my 2-year-old's been sleeping through the night for about a year, consistently, we can expect that. And I think only now am I feeling like I'm getting enough sleep at night, waking up feeling relatively rested. It takes time to recover from the disrupted sleep that just kind of comes with having a new baby. And it's normal for a 1-year-old, an 18-month-old. Like it's not outside of the range of normal for a kiddo that age to still have 1 wake up a night, 2 wake ups a night, more than that.
Yeah, my kids, I'm trying to think of who was the youngest to sleep through the night. I think it was my third. So he's 21. And remember, I said my second had colic. And so the second one slept with me in my bed until he was 4.5 years old. And 0 out of 10, do not recommend. But that was what worked for us. But then when I got pregnant years later with my third, I was adamant that we not land there again. And so my knee-jerk reaction was to get him in his own bed as soon as possible. So he probably slept through the night by like 18 months, which was the earliest that any of my kiddos. I don't make sleepers. It's part of the reason I'm here doing this work is my children don't sleep. I don't make easy kids. I don't make those children who sit on the floor and play with a toy and smile up at you when you walk by. I make feral, brilliant, wild animals.
Same.
Yep. I know our kids are so much alike.
The permission slip I've been giving myself is to not worry about what my kids eat.
Ooh, that's a good one.
So we're just in a season where like my 2-year-old is a pretty quote unquote good eater and he'll eat most things we put in front of him. He isn't like being selective really yet. It's more of like a genuine, like, I'm not into this versus a like blanket, like only chicken nuggets situation.
He's not there yet.
He's not there yet. But my older two have like different preferences.
Of course. God forbid we all like the same.
Right. Like we couldn't like mac and cheese. We couldn't all just like mac and cheese.
Too easy.
That would be too easy. The only thing everyone likes is in fact. But because everyone's preferences are so different, I'm just like not worrying about it. And I make a meal that my husband and I want to eat and that I think, you know, my 8-year-old will probably try and my 2-year-old will probably have some of it. And then I'm like, you know, to my 6-year-old, like, do you just want a grilled cheese? Because that's a go-to thing. Yeah. Or like a bagel or whatever. And I know like all the advice for like best practices around offering food to your kids is to serve a variety and not to be a short order cook. And I do try not to be making 4 different things. But sometimes the easiest thing is to make a separate dinner for my kids. And so I do it. And like, I don't want to eat grilled cheese personally every night. And
it's like a vegetable once in a while.
Right. Like the alternative is I only eat kid-friendly meals. And even that wasn't making everyone happy. And we did that for a while. And I was like, I don't want weekly hot dogs. As it turns out, I feel kind of gross.
Yeah. I can't eat cereal for dinner. I feel good when I eat cereal.
Exactly. And so we just kind of shifted the pendulum to the other end and are just focusing on things my husband and I like to eat. And I'm just giving myself permission to like serve some smoothies once in a while for my 6-year-old who doesn't eat vegetables. And like I put spinach in it sometimes and it's fine. Right. But yeah, I've just given myself permission to like not have this be a thing that I'm doing the, you know, ideal way. And maybe when I have more bandwidth, you know, when our youngest kid it feels like when you're youngest, as they get older, things kind of ease.
Like when they're 5, when your youngest child is 5, I feel like you have a lot more, they're open to more variety. They're almost more open to trying things. They have that funny window at 3 and 4 years old where they've decided that all their favorite foods are no longer good anymore. And I totally am right there with you. It's funny talking about food. My 10-year-old went to his auntie's house this week for the first time. He's been nervous to go without me. So he went for the day and he came home and his big, like, Mom, Auntie Lee makes everything from scratch. My instinct was to rip his little head off. Love that kid. But because of guilt, right? So guilt popped in because I also used to make everything from scratch. I didn't have any options. That was all we could afford. And I was a stay-at-home mom. And now I work 10 million hours a week. And so I pretty much don't make anything from scratch anymore. And it's really interesting to have raised him so differently from my oldest because there's 20 years between the two. But he's fine. They're all fine. Like my big kids who I don't think literally ever ate McDonald's. And everyone's like, oh my God, you're so good. I'm like, no, it's because we couldn't afford it. We couldn't buy McDonald's. It wasn't in the budget. And then this one who has had McDonald's as early as he could get a chicken nugget in his mouth.
Totally.
I mean, my children walk by McDonald's on their way from school, so they drink soda, and I wouldn't let my big kids drink soda, and they're all fine. They're all fine. Soda isn't the thing to break your children. Chicken nuggets won't be the thing that breaks your kids. They'll be fine.
No.
Yeah. I want to talk about, so one of the things that we do here at Maine Mother and Company is we run support groups for new parents. And we thought we'd put a little segment in our podcast called Shit We Hear at Support Group as a way for you all to just understand how normal the feelings that you are having are. So you've run support group more recently than me. I'm curious if you have anything on your mind about something that's come up recently that you think our audience, our friends out there should know about.
Yeah. As you can imagine, sleep is a big theme at support group because everyone wants more of it. And we've been talking a lot about short naps and contact naps recently. And, the phenomenon that a lot of babies go through around the 2, 3, 4 month mark where they start taking really short naps unless they're held or being worn or in the car or whatever. And so we've been talking a lot about that and strategies to try if you want to experiment with independent naps, ways to lengthen naps or create the conditions where a baby could take a longer nap. And that was kind of the theme that we ended on. Not that you can wrap it up in a neat little bow, but when it comes down to it, you can't control how your babies sleep, but you can, think about the conditions that would make it easiest for them to nap, especially. So if they need a dark room and they didn't before, let's get some room darkening shades.
Right.
If they used to be able to sleep just in a bassinet in the middle of the living room with ambient noise, and now every time the dog walks by, they wake up, okay, well, let's get a white noise machine, even if it's a portable one that you clip onto your carrier. If they need motion, maybe we try a nap in the carrier or the stroller a couple times a day when the weather's nice, right? Just kind of sussing out what would help your baby sleep and offering up those kind of layers of soothing. And then whether or not they take a nap is really up to them.
Right. Those darn kids have free will.
They do. They have free will. It's so annoying.
That was a big lesson for me.
Yes.
They don't just do what you tell them to do. And first kind of did. And that was not a great way, to be honest, to start off parenthood, because I thought inside my head that the reason he just did what I told him to do is because I was a good mom.
Yeah.
And turns out that that's just his personality. He's still a lot like that. And my second doesn't have an iota of that in him. He does just whatever the fuck he wants. Whatever the fuck he wants. And so it's funny. It's I will joke that when you have a baby, the very first thing you're trying to figure out with the baby is feeding the baby, right? And that takes, for average situations, 2 to 3 weeks to figure out. The patients that we're seeing are in a very different category. So if you're one of our patients out there, it's not weird, but that's not the most typical situation. Most people are figuring out problems between 2 and 3 weeks, as long as there's nothing major going on. And then as soon as that's in place, they're sleep.
Right.
How do I get more sleep? Because they're so tired. And so I love what you're saying about I call it planting sleep seeds. Here are some little bits you can do, because if baby sleep gets too far off the rails, it's really hard to get them back. They get overtired, overstimulated. They can't remember how to sleep anymore. They are freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
And so, especially in those situations, bouncing them on a yoga ball, putting them in a carrier, going for a walk, putting them in the car. And I know this is I know that the OTs and the DOs and the PTs don't like the car seat, but I think any of them who are parents can agree that the first priority is a baseline sane parent. And that very often means, for me, it meant Starbucks drive-through, drive around in circles, nap a kid in the car. And I did it a whole lot. The price of gas was definitely cheaper when I was doing this, but but resetting sleep is very often a great tool to kind of get more sleep. And I think there's an internal struggle for parents around things like contact naps. Like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I'm creating habits. Like, no, you're not. Not in a baby that's under 4 months old, certainly.
Right.
You are not creating habits. And even after that, you're not doing anything that can't be undone.
Right. Yeah. I talk a lot about like, it's not broken unless you're ready to fix it.
Right.
So, like if it's working for everyone, you included, keep doing it.
Right.
You can fix it. You can figure it out when, baby stops taking a long nap on your chest, or when you're like, my pelvic floor PT said I need to stop sitting so much, or whatever it is. It's just not working for you. Yeah. And then you work on it. Like, it's never too late. The other thing we talked about with sleep is like, if baby's not having it, if you've been working to get your baby down for a nap for approaching 30 minutes, like, just stop.
Call
it, take a break, just reset,
right,
and try again later. But if it's been that long and they're not falling asleep, you're probably very frustrated. They are reading your energy. Yeah, I know that feeling.
A frustration level, like, go to sleep.
Right. Why won't you sleep? And then you're like, what am I doing wrong? What's wrong with you? Why? If you're starting to feel like resentful.
Right. Why does everybody else's
sleep?
baby sleep and my baby doesn't sleep?
Yeah.
Just move on. I used to call those like fuck it days. Like,
yes.
Never mind. This whole schedule we had planned is totally out the window. We're gonna, like, I got little ones. We're gonna put on a Disney movie. We're just gonna hang out. I'll bounce the baby, rock the baby, like feed the baby, whatever. And then honestly, the mind shift of the never mind was all that it really took for me to feel better, was to be like, you know what? There's another day to do this. Another day. I also believe that in order to put work in for things like sleep work, you have to be over 75% fed up with how things are going, because it's a lot of work. And I also, like, if sometimes I dig into these conversations with parents and I'm like, well, how do you feel about getting up? My pediatrician said I need to cut out the 1 a.m. feeding. Okay, well, how do you feel about getting up with your baby at 1 a.m.? You'd be surprised at how many times I hear, I actually love it.
Yeah.
Like, I love, it's just the two of us. And like, for me, the middle of the night, especially when I had a gaggle of children, I used to imagine all the other mommies up feeding their babies in the middle of the night with like just one light on in a neighborhood. You know what I mean? And that we all were sort of connected because we were all awake feeding our babies in the nighttime. And especially with consecutive babies, it felt like a really special time with them. I think working parents often feel like that, as long as usually it needs to be like one feed and they go right back out, but they feel like that's their special time with their baby. And I'm not about to say love every minute of it, because that's bullshit. Like, you're not gonna, it's really hard work, but I will tell you that they don't do that forever. And I'm not out here like, I miss it. I don't miss getting up in the nighttime, but they were really lovely, snuggly, special moments for us that we're never going to get back. And so I think, again, a simple little mind shift, and you're not going to be able to do it every time. You're going to be mad and frustrated sometimes. And sometimes you're going to put that baby down in the crib and walk away. Yep. And take a break. Call your mom. I used to call my mom crying from the parking lot of my apartment building.
Same.
I can't do it. And then she'd be like, I know. And I'm like, all right, go back in. Yeah, like, it's okay to take breaks. It's okay to not have like everything situated the way you thought it was going to be. It's okay to change your mind. It's okay if you're doing sleep work and your baby gets sick and you have to reevaluate. And what I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt is that I have 5 children. Nobody sleeps in my bed. Nobody poops in their pants, I think, as far as I know. And nobody breastfeeds anymore. And those were all things that I have found at different points in my life to be super, super challenging, and really had an idea in my head that it was never going to happen. And here we are. Everybody, like, that's huge success.
You did it.
I did it.
You all did it.
Okay, I think we should wrap this up. So here's what we want to say to all of you. So if you know us or if you don't, we're hoping to put out at least a couple episodes a month. And, our big hope is weekly, but we also...
Let's start small.
We also have a million children.
Yeah.
We would love to hear things that you would like us to talk about, questions you have about parenting, things that have come up for you. And even like good and bad advice that you've gotten.
Oh, yes.
That's what, maybe we'll do that next episode. Bad advice, good and bad advice that you've gotten from extended family, friends, Google, whatever.
Pediatrician.
Yeah, right?
I've gotten some bonkers advice.
The
before.
best meaning pediatricians also like, no, that isn't going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll all give you permission to follow or not follow that advice on our next episode. So thank you all so much. Nicole, this was super fun.
It was.
And a really good time. And more soon from Pep Talks and Permission Slips.
Bye.